Hello YouTube, my name is Brian Leduc, and I've come across software that I think might fit for my cartoon slash vector style. Now, I've made a whole lot of tutorials on Affinity Designer, and while I still plan on using that program, I was doing research on how to draw more naturally but still use the same vector tools that I am used to. And I came across a painting program called Clip Studio Paint. Now, I've used this program a lot in the past, but I'm starting to really understand a lot more of its functionalities. And this program, although is not made for vector design, gets very deep into the vector tools. So I thought I could make a whole lot of tutorials on Clip Studio Paint on just the vector tools if this is something that everyone is interested in seeing. Now, I want to make it clear that the vector tools are not actually a vector. It is what's known as Vexel. So painting programs such as Photoshop, Paint Tool SAI, those actually support vexels, which means they are pixel-based but function the same way as vectors do. Now, the reason I like Clip Studio Paint a lot is because it gives us the opportunity to draw a vector in a more freestyle approach, because one of the rules in vector is to create closed paths, whereas a lot of animation programs you can draw more freely but using vector tools. So this is what really got me into Clip Studio Paint. Here are some examples of the vector functionalities in Clip Studio Paint. Vector advantages. So you have tools like freehand tools, stabilizers, similar to Affinity Designer's pull on a string approach, but a little different. Auto smooth adjustments. This means that when you draw your stroke, it doesn't necessarily auto smooth, but you can create an auto smooth if you'd like. There is segment erasing, which means you can if you crisscross lines, you can erase the intersections with just a simple swipe. You can redraw paths with lifetime previews. You can continue paths with a vector magnet. You can join paths. You can split curves. You can use Bezier functions like Affinity Designer's pen tool. You can use spline functions. You can change line width with lifetime previews. There are two different ways you can change line width. There are node operations such as deleting nodes and manipulating them. You can reduce nodes. You can pinch and bend your vector objects. You can create warps, distortions, meshes, and perspectives. You can scale the stroke on resize, or you can keep the same aspect ratio. You can create selection bounding boxes. This is an additional option. You can create clipping on your layers. You can create brush shape profiles. You can create text. You can create texture and vector patterns. You can create particle brushes. You can show selection quickly in the Layers panel with the Object tool. You can use comic panels and redraw the comic panels themselves. And in the latest version of Clip Studio Paint, you can now import SVG file types. And there are pixel tools that can also work on vector. So you can use pixel lasso tools on vector and break the vectors apart, rotate them, and you can also use the pixel flood bucket tool to fill up the vector shapes. This does not give the same effect as it normally would with other pixel-based software. It will fill up the gap space also So it actually detects the vector line work. So you could change the stroke size after you already placed a pixel flood fill, and you would not get that gap space that you normally would. And you can also use pixel erasers on vector shapes, and what that does is it creates transparent strokes on your vector shape. Now I do also have listed here, let's see, vector limitations, pixel advantage. Oh, I already read that. So vector limitations, some disadvantages, reminders and things to know, and just some bugs I caught, with just only two actually. So if you're interested, let me know, and I could start making some tutorials on Clip Studio Paint on how you can draw a vector in a more freestyle approach. And I'm thinking that if you are interested in this, I could also make a Clip Studio Paint tips and tricks playlist as I did with Affinity Designer, and also create another beginner playlist also on how to get started, and I'll walk you through everything. The program is very clunky when you first start, but I can give you tips on how to get started and just what you need to know. So let me know if you're interested in this, and I'll be sure to um, make some tutorials on it.